NFL report cards are in. Have the Saints players turned on head coach Dennis Allen? Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, the NFLPA, which if you did not know stands for the NFL Players Association, does a survey every offseason where they survey basically every player in the league. They ask them to rank their team, their current club. So they don't rank teams they've played for, or there's no comparison. It's just the current club you're on right now in their current state. They ask them to rank them on different things like nutrition, head coach, training staff, training facility, and we'll look at some report cards in this video, specifically the Saints, but we'll also look at some other ones. And they grade them out. They average out what the players' responses are, and they give each team a grade and a rank. So the team will get like nutrition, they can get a C-, and then it'll say they rank 19th overall in the NFL. So that's what the base of this video is. Again, we will look at some report cards if you've never seen them, and we'll talk about them and kind of explore why they got the grade they did.
The NFLPA, second year they've done this, where they have polled their players, right, with a survey, and this has been about the quality of the franchise, everything from the treatment of families, like I said, the food and cafeteria, the nutritious.
By the way, the reason they do this, if you're wondering, is to help other players make career decisions. So it's the same thing as like if you go to try and apply for a job and you go look for testimonials or reviews of that company from employees on like Glassdoor or websites like that. It's the same mindset, but for players. So it helps players decide like what kind of franchise they want to play for, what perks are important to them, and et cetera, et cetera.
Slash dietitian set of the locker room, the training room, the training staff, the weight room, the strength coaches, the travel, the head coach, and ownership. Now, the NFLPA makes this very public.
Yeah.
When it's done.
They publish it.
And it's very easy to read, very easy to get to, very easy to find. And look, and they say, look, this is not about shame. This is just about showing areas in which you can improve. And
I think it's great.
Fair,
I think it's great for the league.
It causes teams to act, right?
Yeah.
That's
another part too. So along with the employees, not the employees, but the players, along with the players knowing about these franchises for career decisions, it also tries to uphold standards in the NFL. So if I'm just going to make something up here, but if the Minnesota Vikings get an F on their food, then they're probably going to change their food. They're probably going to change their caterers or however they do it. If the players are saying, hey, their weight room is an F, they'll probably look to upgrade the weight room. So it's a way to kind of keep each team, keep them up to the standards the NFL wants.
It's hard to argue with the NFLPA doing this that it's not a good move, because a lot of times, even after year one, you would see a situation in which somebody would this sounds really dumb, but like the Chiefs had stools in the locker room. The players wanted chairs, they had chairs.
Yeah.
The next year. There were teams that didn't have like family waiting rooms in the stadium for families. They had it the year after, right? And so it has been an agent of change. Let's look at how the New Orleans Saints check in, and then let's look at kind of the NFL as a whole.
Absolutely.
So the Saints suffer a bit of a drop in this year's rankings. They were 10th out of 32 teams last year. That is down to 19th out of 32 teams. And perhaps one of the...
Yeah, I mean, so think about it like this. So the initial reaction is, it must be a Dennis Allen problem, right? It must be whatever problem. Saints last year, like T-Bob said, were 10th. Now they're 19th. I would assume a strain of another year of losing, another year of underperforming certainly helps drop that. But we also heard this year about a cultural issue. We also heard this year about an identity issue, certain players, parking in the wrong spot at facilities, certain players not doing their work off site, so it was pretty obvious that there were some players weren't exactly the happiest. Couple that with an underperforming season, you're probably going to get some disgruntled surveys. Now, success doesn't always lead to positive surveys. And we'll see that when we look at all the report cards. It's not like you can't just go by, this team scored the highest, thus they must be the most successful. It doesn't work like that.
The greatest ironies in our sports talk market. For the second year in a row, the Saints score dead last, or I guess they weren't dead last this year, but score an F in the food/cafeteria portion of the equation. Last year was an F.
What's kind of interesting about this? So like T-Bob just said, he said, in the biggest paradox or whatever. Like, how can this happen? I hear all the time on Twitter, people are like, how could New Orleans possibly have an F in food and the cafeteria? To me, it makes perfect sense why they would have an F, right? The idea, I mean, this is it's one of those things where, like, it just shows you how a narrative gets out of control. Why would they have an A? People think, oh, New Orleans is known for their food, right? New Orleans is a food city. None of that food translates to what a NFL team cafeteria would be. Do y'all think they're just feeding them beignets and crawfish etouffee and jambalaya and gumbo and fried fish and fried shrimp and crawfish boils? Like, all the food that is known in New Orleans, all the food that's known in South Louisiana, is the opposite food that you would want to feed an NFL team. So if players from that area are used to eating that kind of food, or at least like flavorful food or really good food or whatever, if they're used to eating that, and then in the training room, in the nutritionist room, they have chicken breast, unseasoned green beans, potatoes, the typical stuff you would see in a professional athlete's diet, they're going to have a more negative response to that. Same thing when you see the videos of people from like England. People from England coming to America and trying American food, they're like, man, what is this? But then when you see people from America going to London and trying English food, they hate it because it's not seasoned, right? They know the grass is greener. People in New Orleans know the grass is greener at some other restaurant. They know soft shell crab is way better than unseasoned chicken breast. So to me, it makes perfect sense why we would have an F on food. Now, that's just as far as like flavor. There's also other things like quality of food. I know the Saints have changed their caterers. I don't know what else to call them. They're not caterers, but whoever does the food. They've changed them a couple times. So it might just be, the selection of food. There's a lot that goes into this. But I do think it's funny that the whole idea of like New Orleans is a big food city, thus the food should be an A+. That makes absolutely no sense.
F-. They were 32nd. This year, they're 30th. They don't offer 3 meals a day. They don't have, I think they're one of like 2 teams to do that, or maybe the only team. They don't have very healthy options, the players say, and they don't have very quality options either. So in a city defined by food in so many different ways, in a state, in a culture, the New Orleans Saints are the worst in the NFL.
That is a little bit surprising. And the 3 meals a day, I'm trying to think. I know in San Diego we got 2, Denver we got 3. So I'm not sure how every team handles that. It should probably just be 3.
Yeah, nowadays. I mean, that's everybody's doing 3 now, basically. Yeah. That's why it's a highlight that the Saints
when you
are
get
not.
there, like you eat breakfast, everybody has lunch, and then like you got to have something for them to at least like pick up and go for dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I don't have any experience in an NFL team, but I would think if you want players to be there, especially like after practice, whether it's grading film or doing whatever, you should have something available for them at the facility. I could certainly see where if they cut food off at noon, people would not be happy about that.
That's it's $1 billion.
It's highly disappointing.
They got too much money.
Yeah,
they got too much money. So that's disappointing. But most fans are going to be like, kind of whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Now, to be fair, if you look these up, the Saints got a D+ on treatment of families. However, that's a bad grade, but it's kind of in line with the NFL. That ranks them at 20th. So they're not like some outlier bad. Like, apparently all players in the NFL just feel like the teams and organizations should have better communication with their families and should...
it definitely is below average. Something else to remember with this is all the grades are weighted the same. So, like, if you're the Chiefs, I'm sure Patrick Mahomes probably puts an A+ for most of this. I'm sure the Chiefs are real in tune with Patrick Mahomes and his family. I'm sure his family gets treated pretty well, right? The third string safety for the Chiefs probably doesn't feel like his family's treated very well. So you got to remember that too, where certain players are going to feel differently about certain aspects of the team. This kind of shows more of an average. So I think it averages out, quick maths, but I think it's something like 53 players per team are the ones who are answering this. It's not like just the starters. It's not just the offense, or not just the defense, or not just the captains. It's pretty much the whole roster. So the third string left guard is just as weighted response-wise as the star quarterback.
Should be better. They score very highly in the locker room department. Or not very high, but 12th in locker room. Feel like they got enough space and everything.
Yeah, that's pretty
in the
strong.
training room, it's all the way up to 4th. Cold tub, hot tub setup's great.
Pretty strong there. So you got the 4th best training room on grade, and what do you say? The 12th best locker room. So obviously 4 is like elite level, and then 12 is well above average.
They appear to like the training staff. That's 15th. The weight room's 14th. Strength coaches 14th. Team travel was one of their high marks. Nobody shares rooms. 7th, which apparently that's phasing out now too.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure when you were there, the young cats always had to bunk up.
So for the Chargers, it was 2 years. I think your first 2 years, like you were going to room with somebody, you could buy yourself out of it. And on home games, like you had the option, even if you're a veteran player. And so me and Tolbert, like we didn't care. So like on home games, we'd room together. And then away games, I'd have my own room when I was a veteran player. So
it's crazy because you always think about the NFL travel. I've heard of companies in just a 9-to-5 world. I've heard of companies who do the same thing with their employees, where if they go on like a work trip, they're expected to share a hotel room, and if they don't want to, they can get their own hotel room. That is insane. Like that's so crazy that some companies do that. Let me know in the comments below if you have any crazy stories like that. But I couldn't even imagine just like going to a work conference and being forced to share a hotel room with some, 55, 60-year-old coworker who I barely even know. It's one thing like an NFL, we've all went on, I know like on high school baseball, like anytime we travel, like everyone's bunking together. There's 4 people to a room. It's kind of fun almost, but a work thing, that just sounds like hell.
Oh, you can buy your way out of it. It's the number's like actually stupid high.
Yeah, the Buck. I read a number today. I think it was the Bucks or somebody. It's like 1750.
Okay, 17.
1750
Gone
to
up.
do it.
Yeah, so it's like I'm not paying $1,500. Like
kinda
me and
feels
Tolbert are
like-
boys. Like we'll room together. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, and again, it's like, okay, somebody says, dude, these people have money. Like, go buy food. I feel you on that, but again, put yourself in the employee's shoes. I mean, every employee always feels
Well,
like.
so does LSU football. They have money now, but they get however many meals that they want from our guy, Chef Michael Johnson.
Yeah,
like, it's
true.
the same
Yeah, the
situation.
players
like
do have money now.
you want to
That's
make sure that your players are eating, like to the best of your ability, things they should be eating.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it's also like efficiency. I mean, like the whole money thing, that's just a lame duck kind of argument. The idea that, look, just put it like you're at work, okay? If you're at work, you want to have, like if you're in an office environment, a big perk is to have coffee there, right? To have coffee readily available. That's a nice perk to have. People can make their own coffee at home. They can bring their own coffee. They can go get their own coffee, whatever. It's strictly just an efficiency thing where it's like, I'm working, I want a cup of coffee, having some freshly brewed 10 feet away takes me 30 seconds. That's a benefit. That's a perk. It has nothing to do with paying for it or any of that stuff. It's just efficient. Same with this. Like same with the NFL players. If they want to be at a practice or at a training, be there early, practice through lunch or whatever, be there to do game tape or study film or whatever. It would be no big deal for them to meal prep, bring their food, order lunch, order dinner, no sweat financially. But those are like 3 extra steps that they have to take of bring their own food or do a couple Uber Eats or, all that stuff. So I think that's more of just convenience and ease. And for $1 billion companies, which is what every NFL team is, you should have that.
in the NFL, and especially athletics, like, yes, like the food portion of it becomes a situation where you can get actual tangible benefits based off of like better healthy options,
Yeah.
right? Like, absolutely. From like the room and board standpoint, like, yeah, you got the money to pay for that, but at the same time, what employee has ever looked at their employer and been like, yeah, I'll willingly pay for this? No, like you're $1 billion company. Your franchise worth multi-billion dollars.
When you
I'm
go
gonna be
on
hard pressed to feel like I should pay $2,000 so I don't have to use a roommate, which to be fair, the Saints did not do.
When you go on a business trip, do you expense your room or do you pay for it?
Yeah, exactly. Like you also have to 100%. Like when you look at the NFL teams at this level, when we're talking about employer and employee, you have to look at each one like a business. And it would be insane for a business to tell you, like what I said earlier, of hey, you got to bunk with this guy, or you got to pay for your own room. It's like, I'm on a business trip. Like, what's going on here? I'm here for the company. Why is there not a expense, a reimbursement situation like that? That is nuts.
No, the company pays for it, or if you pay for it, you expense it later on. They pay 100%. You back.
Yeah,
you don't get paid back that $1,750 that the Bucs are paying. So yeah, you can say how much money these players have, but in every other job in America, they pay for the hotel room.
I mean, yeah, it's just simple, right? I mean, nobody's ever been like, I wish my employee would cover less of my living costs. So of course, players are going to strive for more. Now let's get to the big thing here, though, because head coach is on the list.
Yeah.
Who do you think came in last in terms of head coach? And it's funny because they scored very highly everywhere else because they got a brand new stadium that's incredibly nice.
Yeah, the Raiders.
Yes.
Has to be. McDaniels is terrible.
So this was.
Yeah, everyone knew that one. I mean, everyone knew Josh McDaniels was going to be hated. He was basically, there was a mutiny, and the Death Star Stadium is unbelievable. I mean, if you've never seen it, it's unreal in Vegas. But yeah, McDaniels was basically thrown out of the team by his own players. So yeah, of course he would be last.
That's in the McDaniels era, and McDaniels was 32 out of 32, absolutely hated and loathed by that locker room. Unfortunately, this does not exactly represent a ringing endorsement of Dennis Allen either. Now, Dennis Allen comes in at a B-, but
sounds good
to show you that players are kind of, you know, that sometimes it's less about the letter grade and more about where you rank, because like one thing I thought was kind of funny is like the strength coach has got an A- for the Saints, but that makes him 14th. What that tells me is meatheads just love their strength coach.
Yeah. Football players love the strength coach. Strength coach is always the guy who they love. So yeah, exactly what T-Bob said. Like an A- is a great grade, but it gives you a 14. You know, I already know Dennis Allen's grade because I've seen it on the report earlier, and the grade itself sounds good, but the rank does not.
And that's how I feel about my strength coach. Yeah, because like you work with 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So for the most part, people are pretty respectful of their head coaches. B- sounds good, but then it goes to 29th.
Yeah.
And then it says 84% of players feel that head coach Dennis Allen is efficient with their time. That's 22nd overall. And the players feel that Dennis Allen is somewhat willing to listen to the locker room. That is 28th overall. Especially interesting, given the drama at the end of the year, the players now directly speaking to a disconnect that we all kind of knew was already there.
Yeah, we knew this was there. You know, we knew, and we hypothesized all year long that this is the case. And I still think this is the case. And this probably is the big crux with Dennis Allen. We've talked about at length how bad of a head coach Dennis Allen is. I think when people think about head coaches, they think strictly in X's and O's, or they think strictly in football. But when you're a head coach, you have to decide everything. You have to decide when the bus leaves, when the plane leaves, your travel schedule, where you're staying, all the logistics. You're also the face of the franchise as far as speaking to the players, the authority figure, all of that. That's a big difference, you know, from a coordinator who's probably 100% X's and O's to all of a sudden you're a head coach. And you have to do, you know, 60% X's and O's, but then 40% of what you're doing is what I would call man management. If a coach is good at the X's and O's, and Dennis Allen is a good defensive coach, no doubt about it. We showed the analytics this year. At the end of the season, he was ranked number 1 in defensive play callers by Patent Analytics. Number 1. So we know he can do the X's and O's. But my theory is that the reason he struggles so much as a head coach is because of the man management skills. And this proves it. This is a huge issue. No doubt. This is something that he has to fix. What did we hear from Amy Trask, the ex-CEO of the Raiders? We covered her interview. She said Dennis Allen is not a great person when it comes to making connections, rallying the troops, motivating, being friendly, all that stuff. That's not what you want to hear. You know, that's not what you want to hear from your head coach. So Dennis Allen has to get better at that. I don't care. We're pumped about Clint Kubiak. We're pumped about all that stuff. We're pumped about the roster moves. We're excited going into the NFL draft. If Dennis Allen doesn't get better at the man management, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. It really won't. I mean, we will have to be, and you don't have to be the president. You don't have to be the most personable person to ever live, but the players have to respect you. The players have to trust you. The players have to know you have their best intent, in mind. This survey is telling you they don't. This survey is telling you the players don't trust that Dennis Allen is being efficient with their time. They don't trust Dennis Allen is listening to them in the locker room. So hopefully this is something that he is taking seriously. Hopefully this is something he's trying to get better at. I really do think that with Clint Kubiak coming in and being the offensive side of things, it might take some of this away. Because then I'm assuming some of the players were voicing their displeasure at Dennis Allen with how the offense was this year, and we didn't see any changes, right? So now I'm hoping a lot of those conversations will go to Kubiak and not Dennis Allen. So it's not good that Allen has been a head coach for as long as he has been, and this is what the grade is. So hopefully he gets better with this quick.
That's not good, Bob.
No.
That is not good. But I mean, that's what we've known. That's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
And like you just laid out, whenever all that happened with the Falcons at the end of the year, even the most
yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, this the last image the players have is Dennis Allen throwing them under the bus and Dennis Allen apologizing to Arthur Smith for no reason, apologizing to the Falcons fan base. So that probably rubbed people the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not even a player, right? So we had a pretty good idea that was going to be potentially going to lose him the locker room. I thought for a while there it was going to be so bad that they were going to get rid of him because it was going to be kind of a players or coach kind of thing. And I would think Mickey Loomis would side with the players over Dennis Allen. That was bad. Those kind of moments, Dennis Allen just really struggles navigating. Not everyone is meant to be a leader of men. Not everyone is meant to be a head coach. Dennis Allen probably is one of those guys who's not meant to be a head coach. He just doesn't have the personality for it. Can't do it. And that was a great example of that. And I would bet my bottom dollar that Atlanta situation led to a lot of these bad grades for sure. I mean, how do you think Jameis Winston would fill out this survey? How do you think Alvin Kamara and Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, people who were very vocal after the Atlanta thing, they were very vocal about, sticking with Jameis and not apologizing and all of that. They were right out in front of that. So I'm sure on an anonymous survey, they were letting it rip.
Veteran players that are the face of the franchise type guys didn't stick up for Dennis Allen.
Ooh, that's what I just said.
They all stood behind Jameis Winston.
Yes.
Every single one of them, to a man, right? They had his back before they had their head coach's back. So that's not surprising at all.
Yeah, agreed.
In fact, Cam Jordan was mad. He's like, I would have scored again on the Falcons if I could have.
Yeah. Agreed.
So look, DA's not going anywhere. But
not for another year.
This just kind of underscores the fact that they got some work to do.
Yes.
In terms of repairing some of those relationships and getting those players to believe in Dennis Allen and what he can accomplish with this team. Wow.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other report cards and some of the reasoning behind the grades. All right, so here are the report cards. Let's go to the Saints first. So the Saints, as you can see here, you got the categories. So treatment of facilities, D+. You can see the ranks on the right side. I won't read all of them. We already heard some of them. And then if you go to the actual category, it kind of gives you a reason. So let's see, treatment of families, whatever. Treatment of families, D+. They provide a family room at the stadium. They provide daycare on game days. Some players say their families find it hard to get answers to questions or information they need. I think this is so interesting because no one thinks about this. No one thinks about what does a NFL family do on game day? Did you know that the teams provide daycare on game days? I had no idea. I never even thought about that. I never thought about if that was a possibility. So just thinking about these kind of aspects of the game, I think are very, very interesting. So let's see. Locker room B, 82% of the players feel like the locker room is big enough. 92% of players feel like they have enough room in the individual lockers. And then you could go through, and I will link this below. Team travel, 97% of the players feel like they have a comfortable amount of personal space during flights. Strength coaches, 95% of players feel like they get individualized plan. Players feel the strength coach significantly contributes to their success. Then we heard, ownership B+. Club owner Gail Benson receives a rating of 8.9 out of 10 when considering her willingness to invest in the facility. So, pretty strong from Gail. I want to show you one that I think is really, really interesting. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Chiefs are the current, the best, the gold standard as far as a franchise, right? They keep winning. They're seemingly always in the Super Bowl, always in the conference championships. They seem like the best run organization ever, right? If you haven't seen their ratings right now, what do you think they would get? What do you think they would get in training staff, weight room, strength coaches, team travel, locker room, nutritionists, food, treatment of families? What would you think they would get? I would think pretty highly, right? Look at these scores. They're 31st. They are the 31st ranked team as far as how their players feel about the franchise. 31 out of 32. Where were the Saints at? The Saints were 19th. So the Saints are way above the Chiefs. The Chiefs 31, almost dead last, coming off of a Super Bowl, coming off of back-to-back Super Bowls, and the players are this unhappy. So let's take a look. They get D+, treatment of families, C- in food, F in nutritionist, F in locker room, D in training room, F in training staff, C+ weight room, C+ strength coaches, D team travel, F- on ownership. The worst ranked ownership group in the NFL by the players. And this ownership group has delivered back-to-back Super Bowls. That is insane to me. What do they get the A+ in? Andy Reid. Pretty wild. But let's look at the ownership. This is fascinating. Club owner Clark Hunt receives a rating of 4.9 out of 10 from Chiefs players when considering his willingness to invest in facilities. So, I mean, it just shows you success does not correlate to a great ownership group or any of that stuff. This is whenever I hear people say Gail Benson has to go, Gail Benson is the problem with the Saints, we need a better ownership group. I guarantee you a lot of those people would not have assumed that the Kansas City Chiefs ownership group is despised by their own players, right? So let's look at some other ones. Let's look at let's see. So let's look at the Falcons. So the Falcons rank in at 25th. A- nutritionist, A- training staff, A- ownership, C+ head coach, C later Arthur Smith. These are wild. I mean, to look at, because you also had to remember some of the stuff you just would never assume. You would never assume that some, just like the Chiefs, you would never assume that their ownership would be that bad, or the whole ranking. 31. The Patriots. So another shining example, right? A shining example of a franchise, a shining example of a dynasty. The Patriots come in at 29th. So the Patriots are 29th. The Chiefs are 31st. Let's look at where the Patriots failed. Patriots, F- families, B food, B nutritionist, C- locker room, C training staff, B training staff, F weight room, C- strength coaches, D on team travel, B- on head coach. So Belichick and Dennis Allen the same as far as players, and then D+ ownership. Again, the Chiefs and the Patriots, all right? Bob Kraft, Clark Hunt, owners that everyone sees, owners that I would think fans respect, are 32nd and 27th. Let's see what I think the owners are all the same. The willingness to invest in the facilities, yeah. And then head coaches, look at this. Only 55% of players feel that former head coach Bill Belichick was efficient with their time. 31st overall. And you would think Bill Belichick is the most efficient coach, right? The players feel that Bill Belichick was rarely willing to listen to the locker room. 31st overall. Wild. It goes to show how much winning can cover things up. Team travel, D. The players' rating of their travel schedule position it as the second worst in the league. 73% of the players feel like they have a comfortable amount of personal space. The Patriots do not make any players have roommates before games. Weight room, F. I mean, very interesting. Very interesting stuff here. But again, I will link this below for everyone to go look at. I mean, it's just fascinating to see. Let's do the 49ers at the end here. So the 49ers, 6th of 32. Okay. Strong across the board. Really strong across the board here. The only thing they kind of lacked was team travel and training room, but ownership, A-, head coach, A, families and cafeteria and all that stuff, A's. So strong from the 49ers. Good stuff. But yeah, I'll link this below. Fun video. Good conversation. Let me know in the comments below what you were surprised at. Any thoughts, anything involved there. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.